Welcome back. This is for those of you who are not at all of our meetings. We started at 6 o'clock with a closed session to get some legal advice on a couple of matters, and are actually starting the public session now. So we did our flag salute and roll call at 6 o'clock, and now we're resuming the public part of our meeting. So welcome those online via Zoom and here in person at Borough Hall. Thank you so much for being with us and welcome to our September Borough Council meeting. We start up now with items 5 and 6 on our agenda for those following at home or looking here. Resuming the public session and the report of our public works and water and sewer that were in our packets. If anyone has any questions for our administrator on those, now would be the time. Otherwise, we can move on to our discussion items.
I actually had 2 quick questions. One is, am I right in calculating that we're still getting 40% of our water from New Jersey American?
Nope.
It's about 30
getting,
now.
it's the opposite. If you look at that pie chart, we're actually
We're
getting
getting-
60%. Oh, that's right. No, 40% from New Jersey.
Yeah.
American, 60%.
It's a little under, it's a little under.
We flipped the ratio from where it used to be.
Was
We were getting 60%, now we're getting 40. And I'll just add that our water bill and our water usage relative to the same time last year is down by 50%.
I saw it.
From New Jersey American, not overall, but our actual purchased water.
And then I saw that little note from David saying he's got all these markups to do and just sounded so sad that he's not gonna get it done in time. Is there any way we can help with that, or is that?
We actually just had the pre-con today, the gas company's coming in and putting in gas lines.
Oh, okay.
And they gave us, so to answer your question, no, we don't have anybody that can help him because he's responsible
the guy.
for it,
Okay.
okay?
Right.
And they gave us the lineup of what they're doing, so he can always be one street ahead.
Oh.
And so we'll be fine, we'll make it.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be
It
fine,
just-
they're gonna make it, yeah,
And they're just putting new gas lines in all those locations.
those 5 streets, yeah.
Okay.
And the last time this was going on, at least on West Prospect Street where I am, they were doing horizontal drilling, putting in the lines. And they busted one person's sanitary service twice. That was Chris Fossil, he's working down. Well, you know, because those, I don't think those show up in the utility survey for your PVC. I mean, you're doing the mark out of the mains and everything, but as you're going along, anyway, that's just something to watch for. Somebody has a backup there.
Anybody else? Doug, thank you, and thank the rest of your team for the updates and a busy month of lots of things happening. Next on our agenda, we've got 2 discussion items. So those who are following our water system, we've made the commitment at every meeting to have opportunity to ask questions and get updates on our water system. We'll get probably a more thorough update in committee liaison reports, because our water supply committee has been very, very, very busy on a number of fronts. But I'll say that we're prepared a statement to help understand the schedule going forward of what council will be doing. And it is to shortcut that, and I see some folks, you know, from the meeting here online and in person, and we'll be sure to get that to you very quickly, so you have what we're gonna say on this. But ultimately, there will be a referendum if we do proceed to pursue the sale. That the earliest that could be would be November 2025. I think that's probably a pretty good target based on how long we've always thought it would take to go out and evaluate bids and take a look at these things. So we'll be putting out something with a more helpful schedule, I think, about what happens next in our evaluation process, both what we're doing, you know, with grants and funding, as well as what the timeline would look like before we would get to a point that maybe we would have something from a bidder, someone might possibly interested in the system to evaluate and then perhaps present to the community. And the reality of that is continues to be, we're looking at about a year from now before we would have that to share, and then to likely be on the ballot in November 2025, if council can get something that we feel is worth even putting out to the community. Surrounded by other members of the water committee, but I'll just say, I want to thank both of them, David and Krista, Doug and all our staff. It's been a busy month of working on things for the water, system. Grant application will be some on our agenda even here tonight of things that we're working on, and I'm very thankful to everyone involved, and everyone from the public who's given us feedback and continue to talk with us as we go forward. Our commitment, again, remains to be, as we pursue this, all of the options that a community has to do it with as much openness as we have shown in the last 6+ months. That's how we're gonna do this and how we're gonna continue to do things here. Next up, Heidi, you wanna lead us with the, I think, this seems like a pretty quick one. Yeah.
One, we wanna have a tent at the farmer's market, and the farmer's market is very happy to have us. And, you know, just to kind of promote the recycling options, the, you know, I mean, if Shade Tree wanted to join with any, you know. So, I don't know if folks have questions or, the Hopewell Valley Green Team and the, it will be the borough volunteers from the Hopewell Valley Green Team. So,
And would it be possible to bring out one of the plastic recycling
well, yes,
buckets
that's,
when you're there? Okay.
that's part of what we would be, yeah, we would bring those out. It would be to promote that as well as, hey, who knows, maybe we'll get a couple more volunteers for the, you know, borough arm of the Green Team.
Any questions? I don't think we need really a vote, but maybe just a
Yeah.
kind of thumbs up directionally that this makes sense.
Yeah.
Does? All right.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we have a date. We don't have a date yet.
Alright.
So,
But it will be a Sunday.
it will be a Sunday. It will definitely be a Sunday.
All right, thank you for that. With that, well, I will open the meeting to the public. First for people in person for the first of two public comment or question portions of our meeting. Because we do not have any ordinances. Sometimes we have specific comment sections or public hearings on ordinances. We don't have any of those tonight. So this will be the first of two public speaking or engagement opportunities. If you're like to address us, please come up to the front. I think we found in the last couple of meetings that either kind of our attorneys, Lisa's the one kind of with her back to you guys, but kind of next to her or between her and the wall are the best place to be caught on camera so that people at home can see and hear you as well. So that, anyone want to come to the front, and then I'll poll online for any online speakers as well. Come on down.
Hello. I'm back. I have,
Who are
Think you still have to say your name.
I'm Melissa Cushman.
My name.
Thank you.
I live in. I have three things that I have questions about. I need clarification on something. I was recently told by a council member that the redevelopment project at 57 is absolutely 131 units. And that's what was approved. And that is not my understanding at all. And I know several of us, I even wrote this because I got upset. I was told people need to get over it. It's going to happen. It's a done deal. And I said, but it was approved that it's a redevelopment site, that these people are interested in redeveloping it. And that question was asked of council a couple of times during one of those meetings. Are we committed to the 131 or 130 units? And then I went back to the minutes from the July meeting, and Mr. Mackey said, it is unknown at this time what the actual project will look like, and said this is a good opportunity to add much needed affordable housing, which leads me to believe that, so I need clarification.
Melissa, but before I ask my colleagues to respond to that, if you wouldn't mind, I know you said you had three questions. I'm not gonna ask you to put them all at once, but are they all related to this topic? Or-
No.
Okay.
This is the only one related to this topic.
So with that, and apologies to everyone for the complication, I'm gonna step away and let my
sorry.
colleagues address. No worries at all.
I know you like.
Because I have a professional conflict, unfortunately, with this particular project and have not been involved with. What I'm going to do is exit stage, my right, your left for a moment, and return when this discussion is complete. Hand the gavel over to Christopher.
So anyone, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the ordinance that was passed was 30 units per acre, right? Is that-
That's correct,
And it is 4.28 acres.
that's correct.
So that was the maximum amount of units that we allowed,
Would
and
be,
that,
what, how many?
it was
It's
30.
128 actually.
Yeah, it was about 128 units was what the ordinance would translate to. If you take 30, maximum of 30 units per acre, 4.28 acres.
Is it hundred and 30 units?
It's, that equals 128.
It's-
So the
it's-
final,
It's mine. It'll stop in a second. Sorry.
so no, it's not guaranteed that it's going to be 130 units. We'll be.
But that's what
we'll
a
probably be
council
close to
member
that.
told me word for word.
That's what was.
You can read the ordinance, and I'm sure you probably have, and the ordinance has a maximum density, as it has other
Right,
parameters that it defines, just like any other zoning ordinance would. It does not, we don't have a site plan application. with
Right,
specifics
I
of
understand, and you have to
what-
go through planning, board. I
Yeah.
understand all that, that's why I'm confused.
No,
again.
nowhere does it say 130 units.
Right, it could theoretically.
So one of the members of council is giving misinformation.
Sorry to hear that.
Wasn't there for that conversation.
No, I know you
It's what's in
weren't,
the ordinance.
but,
That was me, and I said that it was approved for 130 units maximum, and that's.
no, okay, well, I'm not gonna get into an argument.
But again,
I
the
said,
ordinance doesn't list the
but-
number of units,
No,
it's the
that's fine.
density of units per
Yeah,
acre. and
per
That's,
acre, right.
that's what I was told, and I was told it's a done deal and to get over it.
That's not what I said, but okay.
So that's that.
Oh, can Ryan come back in now, or is this also?
Well, I'm sorry, it's obviously, it's been very confusing going through
Yeah,
that.
no,
whole
it
thing.
is. It's a
And
lot
I-
of information. It's, yeah, we got it, yeah.
Do the developers think, are they gonna present a plan that includes the 128 or 130? Is that what you expect to receive that they'll present to the planning board?
We're not gonna make any presumptions about what a developer is gonna submit until there's a site plan application. I mean, the way it works is there's a site plan, sorry,
No,
I'm
you-
jumping
you
in.
can finish
There's a
off.
site plan application that has all the specifics of
Mhm.
what and where and how big, dimensions, historical, environmental, a myriad of things that all.
And
that-
it's a particularly sensitive,
And that.
property,
Right,
obviously.
and there's a
Well,
lot
the
being
public-
complicated development, that's the site plan application is a public process at planning board.
so,
But there will be a meeting, I'm sorry to interrupt. you.
oh yeah, like
But there
that.
will be a meeting on September 24th, which is
Right.
Tuesday, 7 PM.
Right.
To discuss the topic. The developer will be here.
Okay,
Right.
So you'll be able to ask questions directly of
Okay.
him, and I don't know if he's gonna be able to answer all of them yet, because
Right.
again, he's gonna have to go through all of these hoops as well.
right.
Right.
But that'll be a good opportunity to ask questions, get answers
And if,
directly from him.
and if there is, I know there's, in the public, there's, people feel differently about it.
Yeah,
Will the people's voices be heard? And like if you have 100 people that show up here and say, no, don't do this, or whatever, would you take that into consideration?
We'll take everybody's comments into consideration, we always do, but I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
it's just,
But also, I wanna make a distinction between, so what we anticipate happening on the 24th is something akin to a concept presentation, which is not a site plan application. I just wanna
Right.
make that distinct. Site plan, very formal,
yes,
that's all the nuts
right,
and bolts.
yeah,
Concept is more like, here's a sketch, kind of what do you think?
and it would be different, I mean, they showed us pictures already.
yeah, he's gonna have renderings to show.
Right, there was something that was done at planning board that was a concept presentation, but it
Oh,
wasn't done
I
as
got
part
it.
of the
Yeah,
council. So that, and that's all I know about it, but
Okay.
basically, I just wanna make that distinction procedurally, because a concept presentation and
Right,
there's no.
totally
I
different.
don't believe we're taking any action of any kind
No.
on the 24th.
No.
It's a public information.
Okay.
section.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
that. Ryan.
Oh. Mayor,
I'm
can you
back.
hear us?
Oh, I want to say something. Oh, you do too? Wait, go, you wanted to speak too.
Wait, you didn't have to
say something.
Okay.
Lisa, we're gonna bundle this discussion.
Yeah.
I'm probably,
Yeah, the ball's got-
so you're done.
So, all right.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this quickly because, emotions still flying. Gloria Anton. Okay, I have been reflecting on the past couple of meetings. The last meeting, Krista Weaver reported about the wonderful job our EMTs did with a high number of calls and also saving a life. I truly commend them. Second, a report about pedestrians and the fact if you are unfortunate to get hit, you die. A white bicycle on Broad Street reminds us of that. Saying that, I wonder how, in clear conscience, the council can approve of the exorbitant increase in our community's populations and not realize the impact it is going to have I guess I should wonder, since the ordinance was passed July first, even though the entire room but a few opposed. I would also like for the council to ask yourself how you personally would like it to react if in your lovely neighborhood, you were told you were gonna have 200+ new neighbors, impacting your traffic and your parking, and an added bonus, more taxes. Okay, let me add, it is not the affordable housing that is the issue. It's the number of new residents in one area increasing our population. The borough has little over 1,900 residents in a 0.72 square mile area. With this proposed project, there will be approximately an increase of 25% in 0.72 acreage. The township of Hopewell population is increasing 25% also, but it has 58.95 acres. Square miles, excuse me, square miles, I need to say. I know the 57 project with the pilot program is easy peasy, fast money, all the back on the back of the taxpayers. The damage that will be done to this town with the impact on the schools, the traffic, the fire department, the EMTs, the infrastructure will be just devastating. I know there was a meeting with the builder. I would expect, as the residents have requested, to have a member of the DEP at that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Paul Buda, 30 Great Lafayette Street, Hopewell, New Jersey. So, I wasn't even gonna speak tonight, but since it was brought up about these, what was gonna happen with September 27th. 2014. I'd like to know, well, it was brought up about the acreage and the number of units. And David's correct, 30 units per acre. But I wanna know in reference to the comments I made at the August 1st meeting, rather. There's a math problem, remember? The acres of, the properties are close to each other. So if it's per lot, it's only 90 units per acre, or 90 plus, it's a 3¼ acre lot times 30 can never be 130. And the other thing is that I presented 4 legal issues, and if just one of them is true, it means the ordinance has to be amended. Never mind what people's concerns about all the other important things, but any one of those 4 missteps could stop this whole ordinance from happening in the developer. And now I'm looking across from our attorney, and she also has to recuse herself because she has some conflict of interest with this project. And we don't have an attorney right now. And my questions are to her, or I feel like Clint Eastwood in that thing when he's talking about chair. But, I can't address it. Well, what about those 4 legal missteps?
Well, I would suggest that you just ask your questions in writing in an email, and we'll refer them to our
I said
attorney who is assigned to this.
those comments,
Tonight.
excuse me, those comments were in the public meeting on August 1st.
I know that.
I can tell you what part of the tape it's in. Thank you for putting it online. It looks great. So those 4 comments, and I gave the 4 exhibits to the attorney. Did she hand them over to the other one? Where's the paper trail? I marked
Which
them,
exhibits are you talking about? I mean,
the 4 legal missteps.
you're
E1 through E4, I handed to her, it's on the
These
videotape.
remarks on the redevelopment ordinance
Yes,
exhibit, you're talking about a
Correct.
physical thing. Okay.
one is the lot, the units per acre.
I can't tell you whether she referred those to Tara, I'll find out, get an answer.
Okay, don't get upset with me.
No, I'm not upset with you, I'm just
trying to
saying.
follow the paper trail.
I understand that,
And
and
Tara will be at the meeting on.
Tara will be at the meeting on the 24th. As you pointed out, we have a different attorney handling this, but I think you should also consider the fact that you're not an attorney, and
I
we have had attorneys go
I've said
through
that.
all of this in detail.
But I think.
It seems unlikely to me that they would make a kind of mistake that you're talking about.
Really, So that, for example, that means if you own a piece of property across from your house, you can use that for your lot coverage?
Paul,
Because we
I'm not an
can't.
attorney, you're not an
No, no,
attorney.
but wait a minute, I'm an architect that uses ordinances.
But you're.
And I could, if a client came up to me and said, can we count the property across the street for lot coverage? I'd have to say no.
Right.
In my 27 years' experience as an architect, no. So how is it, how does no become a yes?
I think with Lisa
That's
returns,
an
we'll
attorney question.
follow up with her and ask if she did pass this on to Tara.
Yeah, and you'll get an answer.
I mean, a month has gone by,
Yeah.
a month. And this developer, he's trying to move. I mean, I've been on the phone with him. Again, he's a friend of mine, okay? You know, so he wants to know, are changes going to happen? The public notice issue. I mean, there's a lot of things. There was a typo, there's a lot of things that if you do can cause problems. And I just wanna know, how do I get a response from an attorney and when? And I don't want this, I want the public to know the response.
We'll follow up with
So
Lisa
you'll get-
and then we'll also follow up with Tara to make sure that she can address.
Will we know by next week?
I hope so. I can't guarantee that, but I mean, we'll certainly know by the meeting on the 24th.
No, I just don't want it to go into Never Land. I mean, I did a lot of work to figure out all of these issues.
Paul, you're on record asking the questions, you've asked the questions, we'll give you a response. I can't tell you what the timeline is, the attorney isn't in the room.
Okay, and then,
Yeah.
and likewise, because of this situation, on such an important project, there needs to be the other attorney present at a meeting like this on this project. You can't have an empty chair.
Hopewell 57 was not on the agenda tonight. It's only a discussion because you.
I understand that
Public
is
session.
legally correct, but it is not correct in terms of doing the right thing. It's
So you're
great to
suggesting
believe-
that we have two attorneys in the room for every council meeting hereafter?
Because of a
Somebody comes up and asks that question.
Because of a conflict of interest and because this happens to be the most pressing project in the borough.
Well,
And so much so, David, when you just said, you know, notified by air, land and sea.
Okay.
You know how important this project is. So this project has to be done right. We've slowed the machine down a little bit here by the developer. Thank you for this meeting, September 24th. This is the right thing. I mean, it warmed my heart to see that public comment could make a difference and slow the government process down. I mean, it's a big deal. And I thank whoever made that happen. If it was a council decision or I don't know who did it. Can you tell me? I mean,
Council.
council, so thank you, council, for doing that. Because that's the right thing. You can't just rush through a project like this. I've said, I don't want to repeat myself. But a lot of people even feel horrible about the July 1st meeting, the week of July 4th, and they felt that it was just like this thing was gonna happen. And it's like, wait, I mean, we had a giant, like, beautiful timeline, and everybody thought we were at step 3. It's like, no, you're at step 9 over here. And this thing is gonna be voted on that night. It's like, whoa, it's like, why is this going so fast? So I think there's a lot of miscommunication. There's gonna be a better connection between planning board and council, redevelopment committee and how it works. Like planning board, we had a great meeting with Jeffrey Albert with that display of the project. But that wasn't transmitted to you guys unless you happened to be at the meeting. And I don't know how many people went to that planning board meeting, maybe 2 or 3 of you, I don't know. But though all those comments from that meeting, Susan Bristol from the watershed, they weren't shared with you. I told her, forward the letter to council. It went to planning board. I think she sent the day of the August 1st meeting. So, you know, this is when you, on a bigger picture, when people talk about our larger government, Congress and Senate, people don't talk to each other. That's what we want to fix here. I've been on a planning board here. And we have to talk to each other, the planning board and the council. This is too important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to talk about redevelopment at 57 Hopewell while the mayor is still out of the room? Okay, I'm gonna call.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair. Oh, yeah.
No, oh yes, Melissa, you should finish. Thanks for being patient.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to say, please, there was something back there. Oh, okay.
Dilapidated buildings, I've mentioned it before. I was just told by a neighbor of the Francos, you know, that the windows are all blown out in the back, animals are going in there, a tree fell down, the building is sinking. And then around the corner, you have the Halloween house. And I know I've asked before, and you probably gave me a good answer, but I don't know. But is there anything the town can do?
What properties are you talking about?
So
I'm sorry, I'm not clear.
Oh, okay,
one on Mercer
yeah,
and,
Mercer
and
Street.
then, and another one on West
West
Broad.
Broad Street,
Okay,
right,
yeah.
So,
for the light,
yeah.
that's
Yeah, I still
completely.
haven't
Without, hold on, without being too specific,
Uh-huh.
I'll just say that, there are avenues that, the borough is pursuing.
Okay,
This is one of that property, to be honest with you, I don't know, I think we're all familiar with the former Angelo's building. I don't know that those conditions were on any of our radars, so that's, I appreciate you letting us know.
yeah, so,
But these are,
yeah, somebody who lives there said it's like, you know, the animals are living in it.
all right, well,
So, okay,
not to use a legal term, but,
I can't wait.
Is this a
No.
safe course?
no,
Come on.
no, I'll just appreciate it. Thank you. If you could encourage though, when we're building files for these things, what we need actually is direct comments from people, you know, rather
I can
than
get
what
you
I'll
that.
call hearsay. So what I'll, if you could,
Yes.
what would be helpful, and when we build up a file on these properties to perhaps give
It's
to a
like
health
firing
officer or
somebody.
something like that, let us know. That's
Okay.
correct.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But, well, let me just say though, generally, quite a bit of work this past month has gone into with our shared service officials like health, animal catcher, things like that on some of these issues. And while there's no specific answer we can really give you other than to say that we're aware of these and we're working on the types of options we have. There's no magic
That's great.
one,
Thank you.
unfortunately, but
I appreciate that. That makes me feel better. Then I have, you're about to vote on motion for, 90, about the general guidance for the council members. And so I had some questions before you vote on it.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yes? Okay, cool. They're not big.
That's a lot of tabs.
Hold on. It was so good to get my brain back. So, because I'm not familiar with the committee, you know, the not standing committees and everything, and it says that, that objectives, so are objectives written down, like, does each one of those groups, committees, like, do they write down their agenda? And I mean, this makes it sound like it's supposed to be run just like this, like a real meeting without any, you know, legal power.
So, a couple of things here. Ms. Garvin is referring to a guidance document that council's been working on with council for the past couple of months. That we think will provide some clarity both to council and all of our constituent committees. So if you're on our planning board, you're on a volunteer and shade tree committee. Many other towns have some guidance, so people understand, you know,
Right.
should you be calling the Trenton Times? Should you, you know, if the meeting is canceled, what do you do? Who do you
Right.
contact? That type of thing. So we've been
Okay.
working for a while.
Well, I should have started by saying, this is like,
Well, I'm not fishing for compliments so much as just.
okay, well, I'm not gonna
separate,
give
but-
you any.
Well,
but-
can we direct this comments to Lisa and Samara though, because they're the ones who have been like. sleeping
Yes,
away on
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
But to that end, this is both a work in progress and initially will be kind of an aspirational document that will set the tone for what we'll start expecting from these committees. So
Okay.
a lot of things here don't necessarily document things that are happening now.
Right.
So much things
For
that
the
we will
future,
be
it's moving-
implementing going forward.
And I think that is wonderful. So, yeah, the annual goals and things like that. It says, on page 6, responsibilities of chair, actions of, can we, so there's agendas and minutes that are filed with the clerk. So can we see those minutes? Like if I want to see what was going on in the shade tree committee at the last meeting, I have access to those minutes?
That is both the goal,
And possibly the reality, right?
so on our, I know you're often the one helping me understand things that are broken on the website. However, there is a section at the top next to pay your taxes for agendas and minutes.
Uh-huh.
You will see, frankly, which of our committees are really on top of it and which ones we're
Okay, so
working on.
I have such a hard time finding the agendas that I don't go past planning board and.
Yeah.
We'll see the libraries where.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so, you know, keep going. Why is that there? Oh, I didn't understand. Okay, page 7, relationship with other BCCs. The last line is, each BCC should respect the expertise of other BCCs and their role in advising council and the land use board on policies related to their domains. What's the land use board? Where did?
Planning board, that's just.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. See, this isn't bad. You know, sometimes I got a problem.
I know.
So the BCC meetings, anybody can go to?
Yes.
I sort of didn't know that.
Yep.
Cool. Do they post it, do they have regular meet, like, is there a schedule somewhere? That's the goal?
Hey, Reggie has some husband.
Okay.
Well, again, the goal and the practice is that everything would be on the borough calendar,
Okay,
and that each of these BCCs, which sounds like we're sending emails and not telling you what's going on.
transparency,
There you go.
the BCCs.
At the beginning of the year, when we do our reorg meeting, there is a kind of omnibus listing of the meetings for most of these for the
Okay,
year. So sometimes it's a combination of things, where there's a approved, because it also goes to the newspapers as well, list of these meetings.
It goes to those,
So-
like, shade tree, oh, those go, the
Yeah.
little, oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
okay, cool.
They do sometimes change, though, I have to say, and PVSAC was kind of because we want to accommodate everyone in the group, so someone's schedule
understand.
changes, sometimes the dates will change. and
Little volunteers.
Our goal is, so technically, some of these committees do not fall under specifically the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. If they're purely advisory and, but our goal is to act
I mean,
close enough as if they are, so that we can give as many people as possible the opportunity to
Okay.
be at those meetings and see what's happening.
Okay, that's great, thank you. I don't know why, I don't understand my own question. What is a memo, an official legal thing?
I don't.
I mean, it says there's the thing on reports, memos and work sessions, and its memo should be voted on and approved by the BCC before submitting. Is a memo just like, this is what we're gonna do? What's a
Well,
memo?
it's like an official statement from BCC to the council often.
Yes.
And
Okay,
so it's
that's what I
an
meant.
official communication, and so you wanna make sure we're all,
Thank you.
the
Okay.
BCC's all.
Look, I'm almost done. It also says, oh, I just realized why, because that's referring to standing meetings too. Hold on, oh, this might be the last one. Do we still have to give our, it says you have to state your address. And then lately, we've been told we don't have to state our address.
Yeah, I can take them.
So that's on page 13. I used to be a proofreader, copy editor. So this was like party.
So you're,
Yes. Yes.
And on the last page, approval of minutes and stuff, it says on the municipal bulletin board and Access Princeton. I don't know what Access Princeton is.
Okay,
Yes,
so
good catch.
these are
Well,
a.
thank you, thank you.
We have sources for this.
We gotta read these things.
What?
I had-
The inspiration of this document,
So there's some boilerplate, like you take some.
Yeah,
I get that, that's, I mean, no one should.
you're correct, we will not be on Access Princeton's.
Okay. And the municipal bulletin board is just the.
Literally,
municipal
yeah.
bulletin board.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean it's in the.
Yes.
physical?
There's a physical bulletin board,
Ah.
and as just a fun, bizarre, archaic note, you know, the way that the state of New Jersey requires the things we should be communicating with people, it involves the part of the newspaper that you will never read, and literally that bulletin board. Those are the two priorities of New Jersey's legislation.
That's
So when you drop off your plastic recycling, you can look at. the
I just give it to you
So,
when I run into you in this building.
Yeah.
And then, let me just see. So that was on that document and. On the other document, procedures. There's one about, when you recuse yourself, and it says, it's page 7. Number 3 up there, the individual may leave the room or remain in the room. In the latter case, the individual may not participate or comment in any way as a member of the governing body. But does that mean they can speak as, a resident? If they, I mean, obviously they're a resident, I mean, or it doesn't, yeah, that's my question.
So I don't know that we're gonna have our professionals give you legal advice on that. When it comes up for us, we'll have our professionals do that. I don't, Lisa, I don't
It's pretty case specific and.
It's nuanced
It is
and expensive.
So
I'll
it
say.
is
Okay.
possible.
Okay,
in Some instances,
Alright.
but
Because
you
that's-
usually, yeah.
that's, I didn't want someone to do something they shouldn't be doing or do something they should be doing. And, that's great. The other piece is really, really great. And I wrote, jotted down to myself, like, was there ever anything like this before? Because it's great. It's great. So well done.
Again,
Thank-
it's not Samara.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I. Give me a long-
HR, you're an HR professional.
And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
They were scared when you saw me get up.
Hi, my name's Shane Moore Friedman. Actually don't live in the borough, I'm at 106 Hopewell Road, some of you are nodding because this is.
I remember your letter of support.
Yes,
Yes.
sidewalk, very exciting. So for anyone who doesn't already know, we bought that house 106 Hopewell Road about 3.5 years ago. One of the conditions on the purchase of the home was that the seller would put money in a trust and hire a contractor to find a way to get us connected to the sewer, because after an evaluation from contractor, engineer, and the health department, it was determined that the septic system on our property was only marginally functioning, and that there wasn't an avenue to introduce a new two-code septic system on our property, given the current size of the house and number of bedrooms in it, the state of the soil, which is like partially or non-permeable, and like the shallow depth of the bedrock. It's all sort of like complicated things that I am only pretending to understand. But since then, sort of like going through this like very elaborate bureaucratic dance to try to actually get approval to connect to the sewer, which the sewer line runs like directly in front of our house. But we've run into like several roadblocks. I believe that there was like a phase at which this council rejected this proposal. It then went to the county planning board, which approved it, and then there was another step that I can't remember at the county level, then to the DEP. And the DEP ultimately rejected it, saying that it could only be approved if the borough approved it. We recently went to the township because if I understand correctly, there was some sense that if there was going to be conversation between the township and the borough about this, the township should initiate it. We were there like 2 weeks ago asking them to try to initiate conversations with you all. Most of them are just sort of like vaguely anxious all the time about this. It's a pretty bad situation to be in. We're like starting a family and really uncertain about the state of the septic system, and hoping that there's anything at all that you'll do to help us figure out what to do here.
Well, before David, you start, I'll just say, thank you for coming in. My suggestion is that I think we'll respond kind of briefly.
Sure.
Specifically, this is specific to your property, to some extent, and then perhaps suggest that this be continued kind of offline.
Sure.
I'll just generally say, the sewer system that our community, when I say Hopewell Borough has invested in, and Hopewell Township has not, is something that is pretty vital to the existence and the things that this town needs to do. And at this particular moment, I say ebbs or flows, like literally, up and down. We're particularly cautious about our ability to have some of the projects that are being talked about in town, things that are even approved, that'll be turned on soon, like the Hopewell Inn, to have the capacity available at the plant that our stuff goes to. Having said, that's the general, I don't want to say feeling, but kind of policy reason why the borough is sometimes, I'll say defensive is not maybe the right word, but scrutinizes those types of requests. So with that, I'm gonna turn to my left, your right. Dave Mackey's the you know, as both the head of our water supply, anything that flows, so to speak. David knows about and has a, yes.
Yeah, so by ordinance, right, we basically do not approve connections to sewer for properties that aren't at least partially located in the borough. And that has been a long-standing policy, partly to preserve the capacity that we'll need for our future needs. It was also implemented many years ago, also with respect to just the potential implications for development around it, certainly if you're not proposing a development. I have been following this actually since the initial this is going back to 2021.
Yes.
So as I understand it, so you purchased the house in April of 2021?
Yeah,
Is that about right? Yeah. That's when I have the closing date. And so, and just a couple questions. So is Gold Bond Bale Engineers, are they working for you?
yes,
Okay, so all the applications, letters, everything that's been submitted in the public record is all from them. I did never, and you referred to the Moore residents, but I've never seen anything with your actual names on it. So,
okay, yeah, so I was Shane Moore when we
Oh, got it.
bought the house
Yeah.
and
And that's
we've
why.
since
Okay.
changed our name to Freeman.
That answers my other question, was right, so no, I understand now, so the reason I ask is just that in all the materials that we've seen, the original proposals for amending this, the water quality management area and so on, it was all from Gold Bond Bale, we had no idea, okay. So I've reviewed the file, the application file from the NJDEP, and there are a number of requests, so, and by the way, I mean, I'm sympathetic to your situation, but I also, all these letters that have been submitted by Gold Bond Bale repeatedly say there is not sufficient area to build a septic system. But I have a letter here from Hopewell Township that's actually dated April 22, 21, which I think was the closing date of your house, that actually says that it is possible to build a septic system there with some code deviations. Are you familiar with that letter? Because I brought a copy in case you didn't have it. I mean, yeah, I know it goes back a long way, and it's a very convoluted wording.
Yeah, I think I'm probably not.
Okay, all right,
Or if I'm sure it was.
well, I have a copy, because you probably want it,
Yeah.
because I thought you might not have it, because with all the other stuff that's been going on.
Yeah.
So essentially what it says, if I understand it, and it's issued by the Hopewell County Health Department, and it says, septic system has been found in the past to need replacing for malfunction due to lot size restrictions. A system with multiple code deviations was designed. There is also an option in which the buyers will try to hook up to a nearby sewer service. Huntington Horizon supplied a letter saying that the current system can be viable until a sewer service is able to be done. If it is determined it cannot be done, an approved design with code deviations is able to be installed with the stated restrictions. In other words, and they refer to a waiver letter that I don't have, but essentially says with some waivers on the specific engineering,
Right.
a septic system could be installed. So that's your
I
understanding.
do remember that. Yeah, I am aware.
And that's still the case, just want to
Yes.
clarify.
Oh,
that.
well, so I guess the thing, my understanding from speaking to Huntington Horizons and Gold Bond about this is that there was a plan that was submitted. It was submitted by the previous owners, or like by, I believe,
Right.
Huntington Horizon, but while the previous owners,
Right.
the previous owners never lived in the house. They
Right.
bought the house.
BTW Holdings.
Yeah. I don't know what Huntington Horizons said to them at the time. What he's been saying to us since then is that the information he has since we bought the house on the soil permeability studies and the bedrock depth is that such a system would not actually be sufficient for the 5 bedrooms currently in our house, even as specified on even with the deviations, as specified in that plan for the township. And so he basically, like, he has been saying that he absolutely doesn't recommend that we attempt to do something like that, because it would be the concern. I think the primary concern is that even though there is there is sufficient acreage with some amount of deviation, there isn't sufficient actual volume, because that is impeded by the impermeable soil and the fact that the bedrock seems to be only something like 80 feet deep instead of the required 130 feet.
Well, I don't see that rocks 130 feet deep, but I'm a geologist. Okay, yeah, okay, so. Right, there are septic systems all around you, obviously you have a smaller lot than a lot of the areas that are around it, so you have some space limitations. The other thing was, our water director mentioned to me, and I can't remember when this was, it was sometime in the last couple of years. He got a markup request having to do with a demolition permit for the swimming pool at your property.
Yes,
Was that removed?
it was, but like, the pool is non-functional.
Okay. Oh, I'm just asking because the footprint of the pool and the terrace around it was substantially larger than your house, and it seemed to me that that would liberate some area for a septic system.
Again, my understanding is that even with the removal of the pool, that wouldn't get us into a place where. I mean, what I've been told is that still wouldn't provide sufficient. I guess, space, or because of the soil permeability problems, he was concerned that like that still wouldn't be sufficient for us to.
And I'll just, and again, I mean, I'm just
install the septic system.
scratching away at all the details, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're surrounded by houses that all have septic. So presumably
Yes.
they have functional septic systems.
Those houses have lots like 4 times as big as ours.
Right, but in other words, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right, they're much larger lots, but I'm saying if you have sufficient area to build a septic system, I would think the subsoil characteristics would be the same, so, I mean, I'm just saying.
I don't know, I guess I.
I'm only saying, and I don't wanna belabor all this, and this is not to put you on the spot or anything, it's just that all the letters and all the correspondence and all the stuff that's been circulating around with the applications has had a single sentence basically saying there's insufficient area for a septic system. But none of the letters from Global Bill provided any actual technical information to support that assertion. So, and I'm just saying that I think that's important for you to know, because it's just not.
So let me maybe make a suggestion here, because one of the many things we don't want to happen to you guys
Right.
here is for them, the engineers or whatever, to keep kind of make the same request and having the same result without having the full information or the helpful kind of conversation that would lead to perhaps a better process. The technical process is, I think they, as they've been doing, send things in a certain direction administratively, things happen, eventually gets to us.
Yeah.
Perhaps, this is, I don't know the exact, Melissa, Doug, you have a suggestion here, but I do think, bringing this offline, just so there could be some, more clarity from us about why, this was projected, but ultimately, with the same request coming back, it's gonna get the same answers, and we both don't want you to have to go through that doesn't make any sense, and perhaps there's an opportunity to better understand, because if they're not, if from an engineering perspective, they're not really putting, the data that you have, it would be silly to keep recycling that back and forth, getting the same answer at the same time, if ultimately we have everything, maybe, we ultimately can, help understanding where it's going ultimately, and not have you keep banging your head against it.
Right, because I mean, obviously, we have to be spending a lot of money on the technical and legal fees and so on, but I will say that our position as the borough is articulated in detail in the resolution that we adopted,
Sure.
Right, and I'm speaking only for myself, I don't know of any circumstances that have changed since that was issued, but that's me speaking for myself, so.
And if there are, then we need to know about them.
Right, yeah, and that's.
And the gap seems to be that I've been given an understanding from the engineer that like we don't have a third option. And that there's some understanding, it seems like from you, Mr. Mackey, that there's a potential way to.
And I'm not making any assertions about what is or isn't possible, I'm just saying, the information that's been put in front of me.
Or perhaps the information used by the engineer to explain why it's not possible is somewhere between not super compelling and incomplete, maybe. So
Well, that's non-existent.
Non-existent, okay.
There's just
It's
a
on the side.
second that says you can't do it, there's
Yeah.
nothing in the applications that at least in the public record that I've seen so far that supports that statement.
Got it.
And that's all I'm saying, and again, this is not a criticism in any way, but it's just something you should be aware
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
because
I appreciate
there's
that.
literally a single phrase in all these letters that says you can't do it, there isn't enough space for it. Paraphrasing, there's no explanation that would say, for example, well, if we had a compliant septic system, we would have to have this amount of area, and we don't have that much area, you know what I'm saying? The things you're saying are adding to this conversation are not articulated as far as I can tell in the application material, so that's not changed, so.
So without, obviously I'm not asking for any more personal information, we know where you live, you put it out there. Having said that, I'm not gonna ask you to give your phone number or email address, but perhaps, at least not here. But perhaps, our administrator's information is available or you can get it from him, let's have a connection offline so we can, if there's something carried out here that we can facilitate that.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for all the filling, I just. Details, you know.
The traffic thing.
Come on.
So, Paul Buda. Hopewell Borough. First of all, I wanna say, they're slowing down to 25 miles per hour. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, that's just too slow. I said to my wife, that's like driving backwards. I mean, 25 is really slow. So before I was, I'm trying to carry, before I was against it, or before I was for it, I was against it. I love 25 miles per hour. Let me tell you why.
Hey, some people are doing 20.
Yeah, even better.
Some are doing 40.
And here's why I love it, because when it's like being in an airplane and you're about to land and you slow the plane, portion of the pilot slows it down. And I feel like I'm entering, it's so peaceful, I'm entering my beautiful town of Hopewell. Yeah, it is, David. So I'm like, I said, oh my gosh, and then what happens is I see more of our town. Our town is really beautiful, and I knew it 27 years ago, and then I kind of forgot about it, you know, COVID and then whatever. But now, I'm like, this is really beautiful.
So it's like the sign said, it's the art.
It's your town, so I want to thank, I know, so Chris, I think you were, yeah, thank you.
And the signs were actually designed by the Mel Bourne and Rachel Bourne from the Pedestrian and Bike Safety Advisory Committee. They have a beautiful.
I like to visit the village.
So not only, a car does that, but obviously, like, I'm walking now, and I'm biking more, and it's like, when you're slowing it down, then you get to say hello to meet neighbors. You go, oh my gosh, I didn't know you knew, whatever, and that's what this town is so wonderful about. So thank you for that. The second thing is just a conundrum I have, and I want to see if you can solve it for me. I was just going over to the bike shop and got my first bicycle in 14 years. That one just got it. So and I was walking over to get it, and when you push that light on Broad to, you're going to Princeton Avenues, right? You're going from Broad, you're going from the north side to the south side, right? And then I go also to the east, right? When you press that button, or even coming back, when you press that button, how does it know which way you're going? How does it know that you're going north, south, or this is not?
Do
like,
both of them go off? I'm sorry to interrupt. Do both of them go off? Is it just, does it trigger, but no, it does not?
I don't think it does.
I gotta tell you, the Pedestrian Bike Safety Advisory Committee has struggled with that intersection.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not experts, but we have struggled with it.
Yeah. So I wonder why there aren't two buttons.
Yeah.
I mean, just.
I don't want to suggest that it's a placebo. However, I will use this as an opportunity, it's something that we'd be talking about a little later in the evening, but with both of the issues that you've raised, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we will be thanking a whole number of people who were instrumental in both the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit change and some upcoming money that we will be using for improvements, possibly including things like different types of different types of beacons at that intersection, for example. So everyone on council, particularly Council President Weaver, are very excited to share the specifics of some of this news tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and it'll be all over the papers and Mercer.
Online as well, or is it?
Well, it's we're not sophisticated enough to have a live event, but our partners in the county and the township will be here to help.
Right in this room.
Out front.
Up front, even better.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
So,
And just another quick note, talking about slowing down, you're coming into town, since the Friedmans are here. One of the things included in the grant application was a sidewalk connecting the borough to Keys Path, which would go right past your house. And again, thank you, thank you for the letter of support, a letter of support for the sidewalk for the grant application. So that can also act as a way to slow traffic down, and something that we would call sort of like a gateway. So people realize they're in an area where it's not just cars, it's gonna be pedestrians and cyclists there as well. So hopefully that'll help to sort of slow traffic down as it's coming into town that direction and out also. Okay.
anyone else here in person before we go online?
Good evening, Francois Gilman, Art Studio. Stand here a few times, trying to understand the plans for how to make a donation into the town. I finally had an opportunity to make a general drawing of what I would like to do. I've made 7 copies. I don't know if we have time to review them here, or if that's something that happens at a different time.
Again, thank you so much. Love to see these and we'll take the copies and my suggestion is that we can, if we could set up a meeting to kind of review them. I don't know whether it's at a point where we need to have our engineer look at it or we can kind of understand which, what fields and professions we need to have helping us look at it, but would certainly love to.
I've had a structural engineer help me with the general structure.
Okay.
I'm trying to include that in the artwork in such a way that doesn't disappear but works well. And so I'm hoping that we could actually have a meeting where we could pick a site, because that would also help determine what needs to happen in the drawings. As well as the basic review, so we can go over any questions you may have.
That'd be wonderful, and I think that I'm happy to help.
How do we go about setting that?
So if you could.
Yeah, I think that would be the building team. right?
I think that would be a
Get
good
together
subset,
on-site and take-
but ultimately it's to connect you and this man here, Doug, so we can set up a time and
Okay.
and do that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Should I just call the borough?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, after Doug,
Okay, beautiful, great.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going out of town for 10 days.
Okay.
But, when I get back, that'll be the first thing on my list.
Excellent, and honestly, if there are enough copies for us, but happy to have us take them, because I think we'd all like to just kind of see it at our, in advance.
Okay.
If that's okay. I don't know, it's spoiled surprise, or how you'd like to do it, but we'll certainly take them, and we're all pretty excited to see it, so I don't wanna deny anyone seeing neat things here.
I put these drawings together today and actually imported a photograph, which had a little bit of glare.
Oh, all right,
And so that's translated in the drawings as well. It's kind of a yellowy bright spot, but you guys have all seen the panels.
yeah,
So I'll ask you to consider that part.
thank you,
There you go. Thank you very much.
thank you, and
Thank you, Crystal.
as our, once these details are worked out, and I'll just say kind of offline, we'll have our building committee and our engineer and administrator will all work to get the details done, and ultimately, so we would do a resolution formally, accepting it, and we'll talk about the details of that and what ways we can help recognize and,
I don't
celebrate
need any
this.
recognition.
No.
I just think that this would be a really great thing for the town.
Yeah, thank you.
And in the right location as well.
Your recognition is right there on the screen.
Yes.
Every time, every council meeting, we all love it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
All right, before we go, on anyone else in person? With that, I do see at least one hand online. I'm going to move our first speaker over. 1 second here. Ms. Williams, you will be first. We'll need to. 1 second here. It takes a second for the people to move over and to come spring to life. Well, we'll try again here. There should be an option coming up on your screen to, okay, there we go. And you should be able to push your camera button to start your video. And I don't know if you can hear us. We should be able to hear you if you're unmuted.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, wait. Okay. Hi,
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not there in person. I just finished resolving a case right before the meeting started. I have to tell you something that someone told me. I realize it's hearsay, but the person told me I could bring this up because I was deeply offended by it. Someone, and you don't have to recuse yourself on this, although I'm going to mention Hamilton 57. It's not about Hamilton 57, but someone from the planning board went to one of the vocal people, called them up and said to them, you may not speak to anyone privately who is a public official about these things. You can only speak at a public meeting. I cannot tell you how offended I am by that. And if someone actually said that, perhaps you could ask the members of the planning board, they should be asked to step down. That's just beyond offensive. I didn't sleep the night. The person is not bringing it up, so I'm bringing up for them and the planning board member told them, no, I checked this with the town attorneys and they told me you don't always have a First Amendment right. Now, if that happened, then
Just so I understand what you're saying, this is, a planning board member being
called up,
told.
yes, called up one of the people who's been very vocal about
Okay,
57 and said, you may not speak to anybody on the historic committee, to any of the council members, or to any of the planning board members privately. You may only speak to them in a public forum.
well, I mean, normally with pending applications, that is, my understanding is that is 100% correct, that applications pending should be heard at hearings.
Yes, I mean, that's fine, but if I see, these are my neighbors, if I see somebody in the grocery store, you mean I can't say, hey, I don't understand what's going on? That's a violation of my First Amendment rights.
Well, no, I don't think anyone can stop you from doing anything. If there's a rule against a planning board member engaging you outside, ex parte, outside of a planning board hearing, that would be for them to deal with.
Okay, but this person hadn't even done this. This person hadn't even done this yet. They were called in order to try and stifle them from doing it. So I just think that's egregious and that it shouldn't happen.
If you'd like to send some specifics offline to myself or our administrator, we're happy to kind of try to understand what you mean. I'm having a bit trouble following. So someone reached out to a community member and said
Yes.
that planning board members can't speak with you, or tried to explain why they might be uncomfortable.
No, they said that the community, the person from the community could not speak to any public official except in this meeting.
Well, that's not correct. That any restrictions apply to members of the planning board or members of the council. So for example, if we have, and you can always correct me, but my understanding as a planning board member is, if you have a pending application, let's say there's an actual active application before the planning board, right? We as planning board members are not supposed to be speaking to the public about it outside of public session. In other words, once that application is submitted and the public hearing has begun on it, there are restrictions on what we can do, and that's so that we are not essentially creating the impression of a bias, for example, on that process.
And I can understand that, but that's not what happened. This person hadn't even done anything yet. It was like a warning because this was an intelligent person and they were concerned that they were going to speak to members of the historic committee about Project 57 Hamilton. And, you know, I just think that kind of thing shouldn't be happening in our town. But
what I'll say, Ms. Williams, is we will have our professionals make sure that our boards understand what their restrictions are.
Okay.
In this regard. I don't think we could stop people from, you know, lobbying board members or engaging or approaching them or anything like that. I mean, I don't know that that's what should happen, but I don't think anyone, I don't know what, you know, again, this is hearsay upon hearsay, use that word
Yeah,
several times.
well, I mean, okay, I mean, but everybody's talking about Hamilton 57. So, I mean, to say, you know, to call somebody up and say, don't talk about it. Obviously, the planning board member misunderstands then what the rule is. The second thing that I want to bring up before I ask Ryan to recuse himself again is that Lafayette Street, and I know we've slowed down, and I brought this up before, and I saw somebody on the neighborhood site say, just plead with people, please slow down on Lafayette. The conditions on Lafayette, and I've lived on Lafayette for 8 years now, are becoming extremely dangerous, okay? People are now passing you if you go too slow on Lafayette Street. They just go, okay, you're too slow, and if you're going 25, and the speed limit is 25. if you try, I have to back out of my driveway and someone is kind enough to stop and let you back out of your driveway, the car behind them passes both of you in order to get to the end of the street because it is a cut-through street. And, you know, I appreciate the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on the main drag, but there has to be something that, you know, tells people that this is not your alternative. It's not your alternative to doing 25 on Broad Street to do 35 or 40. We have children that are riding their bikes here all the time. They ride, you know, in the empty lots. I mean, it's just becoming dangerous. And this goes back to what Gloria was saying, with the addition of that many units, this is one of the things, you know, we're all concerned about. So I don't know what we can do. I know there's opposition to speed bumps. Nobody wants that, but it is. And if you come here at rush hour, I mean, I'm here, I sit on my porch. I mean, it's like a turnpike. I mean, so I know you don't live here. I know other people feel this way. I know other people at other meetings have said, I can't get out of my driveway. I think it's something that has to be taken into consideration, whether we need flashing lights saying, you know, 25 miles an hour. The police are never here. I know they have a lot to do. And it's not just because of the repaving. I know that's going on and that added additional traffic. It's not just because of that. Okay, so I'll put that out there. The third thing is I wrote to all of the members of council about, and Ryan, you can stay there, about the meeting on the 24th. No one wrote back to me. I write to Cory Booker, he writes back. I write to the president of the Senate, he texts me back. Ryan will always write back to me. Thank you, Ryan, no matter how many times I write to him about other issues. But our petition asked for a meeting, and if this is intended to be a substitute for what we asked for on our petition, it's not working out. We asked for a conversation with council and perhaps the planning board jointly to talk about the concerns that we have about Hamilton 57. If the builder is just going to come and speak to us and tell us about it, there's almost nothing he could say if you listen to what the people's concern was that's going to convince us that it's a good project. I mean, he can do it beautifully. We all think it's too big. So if this is just going to be another meeting for that, there's not much point in us attending. We were already spoken to about that. And it is starting to feel like it's a done deal. And I'm sorry that someone was told it's happening, get over it. That's not how our public officials should be speaking either. I mean, we were of the understanding that there was still going to be a lot of conversation, not with the builder, because I'm told he's a good builder. He can build something that's beautiful, just not here. So if that's the purpose of the meeting, it still hasn't addressed what's in our petition. We still want to hear from DEP about how this is going to affect us. That was brought up at the July 1 meeting. When can DEP come? I know some of my neighbors have contacted DEP themselves, but we still would like to have a meeting where it's not the builder. If he wants to sit there, that's fine, but it's a conversation with council, planning board, and the citizens who have grave concerns about this project going forward. And I would like to know when that's going to happen, and also when we can hear from DEP about this project, because there's just numerous issues that have been raised about the stream, about, you know, flooding, although we know it comes from the ground up, not from the rain down, about the detention basin. Those are the things people want to hear about. So if the builder is just going to come and talk to us for 2 hours about his, we all know what he wants. He wants to build 130 some units and, 25 of them or 26 of them will be affordable housing. But, so, and I guess this is for Krista, because Ryan has to recuse himself. We would like to know when those meetings are going to happen.
But before you answer, so, Brother Ray, will there be more comments on this subject before I was led to think that this was not the nature of what your comment question was, so I didn't remove myself, but have we,
I don't think-
will there be more beyond this? Because I should leave. Or are there other comments you have unrelated to this particular topic, or?
Oh, are you asking me? I thought you were asking the general public. Oh, no,
Asking
no,
you.
this is my last comment on this. Yes, and then it's my last comment overall.
Right, thank you. I'm gonna step out and let the rest of the council address this.
This meeting is meant to be that conversation, and the developer will be here. I think it's a positive thing for him to be here because he'll be able to answer some questions that perhaps council in and of ourselves will not be able to answer. Doug, David, do you think it's possible to maybe get someone from DEP to this meeting, or is it too, where are we in the timeline for that?
Honestly, I think for the DEP to be involved, it would be much more appropriate when you're at the site plan application stage, assuming that we get to that, because without the specifics, I mean, the DEP is not going to respond to the specifics of a design that hasn't been submitted.
Designed.
I'll tell you that there's a long, complicated set of environmental permitting requirements that go with this. Stormwater, flood hazard areas, stream encroachment, enumerating all these things, and that's aside from, the remediation part of it. So, and just to give you a breakdown, so the remediation part, the environmental remediation part is the responsibility of Rockwell, the responsible party.
I knew that.
And that's under the direction of their licensed site remediation professionals. So when it comes, if and when it comes to a point where we're actually talking about a specific site plan application, I think the most appropriate thing would be actually to have the LSRP, because they're the ones that are actually running the project, and they're the ones that are held accountable by DEP for every single aspect of that to explain those things. As for what the developer's responsibilities are, every single one of those environmental concerns, for example, flooding and all those things, is part of the site plan application. So there's a whole engineering review that goes with this, and permitting and everything else. So my suggestion would be, in terms of those concerns, I think the time to really look at those is when you have something concrete in front of you in the form of a site plan application. I would expect that the site plan application process for this would be probably multiple sessions. I can't imagine anything of this complexity in a single planning board one night hearing. But at this point, we don't have a site plan application in front of it, and I think, if I understand it, what the developer will be presenting as a concept plan, similar to what was presented at planning board. So we're nowhere near those kinds of details. And I think, so the time when, and this is also true with traffic too, because that the site plan application process is when the specifics are proposed for what would be the traffic mitigation measures, what are the studies that are done to support that, in terms of impact, number of trips and all those things. And those are the responsibility of the developer to submit, but the borough's professionals are responsible for reviewing all of those. And, if you will, holding the developer's feet to the fire if there's anything that doesn't pass muster. So that's all part of the site plan application process. My sense is that at this stage, it would be premature. If we get to the point where we have a site plan application process and it looks like things are moving forward, and you need some reassurance from somebody from the DEP to essentially say, yes, what the LSRP is proposing, is protective.
And that's all part of the permitting program.
Right, there's an opportunity for that. And the other thing I will mention is that, and this is still in the developmental stages, but so there's part of this process under the local redevelopment law is there's a redevelopers agreement. That's basically a contract that's executed between the borough and the redeveloper, and I believe that predates the site application process. That's a work in progress. But it's an opportunity for the borough to add requirements having to do with the actual project execution. Like if we see things that are not addressed specifically in our ordinances, for example, if you were doing building demolition and you had a bunch of safety requirements and the existing rules didn't seem to capture everything, we can add those elements into the redevelopers agreement. And so, so there's enough, so there are two different levels essentially of protective mechanisms. One is the things that you build in terms of the framework about how somebody has to operate if the project is forward. But the other is probably more important, is the specifics under the site plan application. So is that making sense? I mean, I
Yes,
think there.
thank you, and I appreciate that. My concern about this meeting is some of the concerns that people have are the things you said will be in the site plan application. He won't be able to answer any of those. Like if people say, well, what are you gonna do about traffic? Well, we haven't done the study yet. Well, what are you gonna do about a detention basin? Well, we haven't done that yet, so.
Well,
I
let's
mean,
see what transpires, but the other thing is, I was thinking that this meeting would be a good opportunity for us to explain in a little more detail all the things that are encompassed by the site plan application. In other words, I think the more we can explain to people about the process and when these different concerns get addressed, hopefully that would be helpful. And you may not have all the answers you want at this meeting, but there will be opportunities for those, and those are all going to be in public session. So I was thinking, I mean, Krista, is this aligned with your understanding of what we're
absolutely.
doing then?
I mean, it's some things we just cannot address now because we don't have all the information to provide for it. I mean, I will say one thing real quick, and it is basically that traffic calming is gonna be a huge part of this, and having more traffic density does not necessarily equal higher crashes or injuries or fatalities, because if you look at Hoboken, they passed Vision Zero and they now have reached, I think, 7 years without a single fatal car crash or serious injury. And it's a
No one-
very dense area.
no
So
one
it-
knows what traffic calming means. No one.
Traffic calming is speed humps. That's what it is. It's bump
Okay.
outs, it's mini roundabouts, it's all these things. It's engineering the road so that it forces people to slow down. Because I know enforcement works sometimes, but it's not the only thing. It's engineering, it's enforcement, it's education. It's the 3 E's. And engineering is the most important part of it. Unfortunately, it's also the most expensive part of it. But we are in a situation now where we have someone coming to develop this who's very eager to implement traffic calming measures that we want. So if you seriously want speed humps there, that can be a conversation. It's not entirely up to the developer, it's not entirely up to you, because I'll tell you right now, emergency services is not gonna go for it. They do not like speed humps.
I know,
But
no one wants
if
them.
you want it, we will talk about it. We'll talk about it because it should be on the table, at least for a conversation. I agree.
Can I just say a little comment about the traffic? I mean, you can't even go in and out of the streets right now with the little bit of community that we have. And you're gonna have over 200 residents living across the street from our properties. I don't care if you put speed bumps every 5 feet. You can't even speed. You have to stop to let.
Exactly, that's the point. You
So-
cannot speed.
All these cars in there. I don't know what kind of traffic control they're gonna even come up with. And another thing I was looking at, they did a 2023 census. And New Jersey is one of the most densely populated states in the United States. And the average amount of residents per square mile is 1,215. And we're already up to 1,915 at 0.072 square miles. So, I don't get it, the ratio
I'm sorry.
of adding 25% more people into the community when we're over capacity now.
And other municipalities are even far denser than that.
0.072 square mile, we're not even a square mile. We're not talking 59 square miles like Hopewell Township or Montgomery Township or Princeton or any, we're a little tiny little town.
Yes, we are.
So where are you gonna put all these people? You can do affordable housing, do you have to do 130 apartments to accommodate the affordable housing project? I don't think so. That's ridiculous, do the math. It's just unbelievable to me, I shake because I can't even fathom how anybody to look at this 0.072, not even 1 square mile, and you just pile the people in.
Rosemary, I just wanted to say,
Oh,
I
God, I just
apologize
can't stand
that
it.
no one responded to your email. I cannot remember if there was a question in there or not. I know Doug, and he acknowledged that he received it. So, was there a question in the email that you needed answered?
It's okay. I just said, that people are very, very anxious about this, obviously. And the main thing that people are concerned with is it's too big. If you look around other municipalities, you look at Hopewell Township, when you have a small community like ours, they don't put the one road that runs parallel to the post office. They put little townhouses there. The only place they put giant 3-story buildings is out on Scotch Road. But in a small residential neighborhood, they don't build 3-story, buildings and 3 of them. So I don't know what the builder could say to us. I'm told he's a good builder. I'm sure he is. But the main objection that people have to this is if he's not going to reduce the amount of units that he's going to put there, we just all feel that it's too large. So I don't know what he could say to us that's going to alleviate our anxiety. I mean, especially people on Lafayette and people on Hamilton, are very, very concerned about how the neighborhood looks when we put these massive, buildings there. And this is the historic section of town. It just doesn't, he says he's gonna make it, consistent with the historic quality of the neighborhood. I just don't know how buildings that large, and I think that's everybody's view. So I don't know what he could say to us unless he says, great, I'll cut it in half. And I know someone actually asked him, well, what's the minimum because he wants to make money on this. What's the minimum you're willing to do and still go forward with this? And there's no answer to that. And I think that was asked at the July 1 meeting. That's a key question, for all of us. Are you willing to reduce the number of units that you'll put there? And I don't know if that's something that he'll answer. So,
Oh, you'll have an opportunity to ask him on the 24th.
well,
No, I mean, he'll be here, so that's a great time to ask him that question.
okay. Well, I mean, thank you both. I appreciate your answers. If there's something we can do about Lafayette speed in the meantime, before someone is injured here,
No, I know what you're talking about. I know people speed there. Doug, do you think it's possible to ask the police department to have a car there? Because again, we were talking about the 3s. We only have one that we can really use right now, and that's
I know.
enforcement. Let's utilize it if we
Yeah,
can.
we have several streets in town that we need some
Yeah.
attention.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, thank you
Can I
both.
come back in?
No.
I'm done.
Okay. He's,
Well, I was gonna-
I don't know how to work this, so he's gonna have to come in to do that.
Okay, so I was gonna say something that he can't be a part of.
I just didn't know how to turn off the.
All right, let me reset and organize things here. So we're still in public comment. We've been taking hands from people online. Are there anyone else online who would like to speak? Seeing none, this is not a motion, but I'm just making a note here of who would like to speak. One second here. I'll leave it up to the rest of the council if they'd like to continue with in-person on this topic. I don't think I should be the one to say yes or no. So if we're back to in-person still, this would be kind of getting back to the beginning of the discussion again.
I think we should let's just push through and we will.
Let's close the meeting to the public. We're done?
No, I think we should hear.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Brian, we don't
Thank
like
you.
stepping out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Melissa, you before.
Thanks, Melissa Cookman again. I had no intention of speaking, but she got me riled. The September 24th meeting, he's bringing a concept in. I was at that planning board meeting and it was an incredible presentation. It was a great presentation and that's just gonna be what it is again. And he was asked questions like, what about, big question, how's it gonna impact schools? And he said, you don't have to worry about that. These people in these apartments, they don't stay in apartments. When they start to have children, they go buy houses. Yeah, not in Hopewell. I mean, that's not an affordable, that wasn't a good answer. When I said, because she's talking about Lafayette and I'm thinking of Somerset also. Somerset is, it's a speedway now because of Valley Oil, zipping back and forth. And he said, I said, rush hour, getting children to school. He said, people don't have rush hour anymore. People are working at home. So those aren't answers that are acceptable. That's just not true. Yes, more people are working at home, but there's a rush hour in Hopewell, try and cross the street or drive. So I'm concerned that we're just gonna get those kind of answers. So I understand what you're saying, David, and about not having the DEP here, but I think that, listening to, Rosemary, it would be good for us to have just someone come in and say, this is what, and not you with all the respect, like an independent, because you're too good at it, David. To come in and say, this is how a property like this has been remediated in the past.
Right.
And if that's not the DEP, but that's what I need to know. I have a business, I own a building across the street from that. Are we all gonna get God knows what because they're digging it up and it's
No.
there and it's oozing? I know you say that. I know you're not gonna let that happen. That doesn't mean it's not gonna happen.
No, but I'm just saying, but I understand your concern, and I think if we, again, my suggestion would be if we get to the stage where we're talking about an actual concrete plan, a site plan application.
I understand.
There are people from the DEP that do that all the time. They can come in and say,
But
here's
in the
how typical
meantime, you have a
brownfield.
town and a large number of people in this town that do not want this based on what they know and are upset about it. So to wait for the site plan to have this, the presentation, that's gonna be a done deal in people's head. This is what they want. And if we ask him, well, what about traffic? And, traffic calming, that's great. How about Columbia? You wanna talk about Lafayette. So I just, and a traffic person could come in and tell us, a professional traffic person saying, if you put 200 units in there, this is what's gonna happen. This is what you're gonna need. I don't wanna wait till the site plan.
Site plan application. That's part of all the.
That's so much further down the road. In the meantime, you have a town that's burbling and angry.
But my point is, until you're responding to a specific proposal where you know what's being built, you know how it's being configured, you know what the developer is proposing.
Well,
You
we
don't
could
know
just
what
say
the traffic mitigation measures are going to be, all
But he's
that stuff.
proposing 130 units possibly, and maybe it'll go down to 120 or 100, even 100. That's at least 100 cars. So I think that information might be a little reassuring or terrifying, depending on what they say.
Right.
Even before, the site plan is a long time. It's not next month.
No,
Or the
but,
next
but, but it will require a very detailed analysis of every one of these things, where their professionals have to go up there and answer those questions. They have to defend the basis on how they.
And they'll bring in a traffic expert
Yeah, he
Oh,
has.
we would require them to bring a traffic expert.
and
The
they'll
other
bring
thing
in
is-
somebody from the DP and just explain exactly how it's safe for everybody in the
Let's
area.
split this into two different things.
Okay.
Traffic, there's the DEP is a separate issue, okay? But in terms of traffic, impact on schools, all that stuff, that's all part of the site plan application process. And so the developer is required to address those questions as part of the application. And the borough professionals are required to analyze their responses and make sure that they're adequate. And if they're not adequate, say, well, you had to do more than this, or what was the basis for this model? And the borough professionals are actually, that's their job, is to scrutinize every single aspect of that to make, so, for example, if there's a proposal for traffic mitigation measures, we make sure that the borough engineer has a traffic expert from their company that's qualified to scrutinize that carefully and make sure that what they're proposing is right and it's legitimate and it does what they said they're gonna do. I mean, that's
I'm sorry, yes.
yeah.
And
So-
I
so-
understand that, but I think that this meeting is not gonna be what you want it to be. Because if they're gonna come here and show us those beautiful pictures again
Right.
and go on and on about how fabulous it's gonna be and it's gonna look great and da-da-da-da, that's not what we need to hear.
Okay.
That's lovely. Show us the pictures after the site, like, what we need to know is what you're doing, what would be being done to this town. And I don't think waiting for the site plan is necessarily the best thing for the rumblings. I mean, I don't know if you realize how this is upsetting to
I
many of our less than 1 mile.
But we're trying to.
No, yeah,
We're having the meeting and I wish that everyone would stop like poo-pooing the meeting and saying how horrible it's gonna be before we have it. Because it hasn't
Because you said
happened
it's a
yet.
concept,
He
it's a
has
concept.
a concept, he's gonna present, that's
I know,
not
we've
the point
seen
of
the
the
concept.
meeting, Melissa, it's not the whole point, the point is to have a conversation, it's just part of the meeting. And it's in response to what we've heard people saying, so please give it a chance, that's all I'm asking is
How much
everyone
time
give
is
it a
he
chance.
gonna have to bring, because he presented for like, what, 30 hours or something at the planning board meeting. It was a very long presentation, and I'm saying it was, I learned exactly what he's looking for. So I realized that we're having the meeting no matter what, but I don't think it's gonna accomplish what the public wants accomplished.
Yeah.
We don't want, we don't, at this point, we don't care how pretty it is. We don't want it. Many of us don't want it. And my other question is, and obviously we want affordable housing. I mean, I guess we have affordable houses too, affordable housing, but if we didn't meet the, is there a deadline or a penalty for when we have to have that certain amount of affordable housing?
I don't know what the deadline is. now.
No, there's not a specific deadline.
Right, so we don't have to accept this developer if we said, no, we don't want that many. And no one can say, well, yeah, but that's the only way you get your affordable housing. Well, they can't make us.
Well, but you have to look at where you have realistic opportunities to actually meet those obligations, and there are only a
So
handful.
you're gonna meet those obligations and change the entire,
I'm not gonna argue the point of this development. I'm saying you asked a question about whether there's a
Okay,
deadline. There isn't a
don't-
deadline. There are numbers that are developed by others of what our affordable housing obligations are.
and I would love us to meet them.
And they're substantially larger than the number of units that are being proposed here.
Right,
And there are a relatively small number of properties in town that provide any opportunities to create. I can tell you that in the 25+ years that I've been on council, the number of affordable units that we've actually created, and that's not through lack of effort on the part of the planning board. It's less than 10. And I don't know what the actual final numbers are that have come out of all these court decisions. And there's some adjustments that have to be analyzed, which Joanna, our planner, is working on. There's a whole vacant land adjustment. At the end, she's gonna come down with a number and say, our total obligation is X. But what I can tell you is that from previous rounds, right, they have these numbers that have been issued over the years in these cycles, that we haven't met most of the prior obligations. Those continue with us. So I think it's fair to say that it is a real struggle for us to meet the obligations that have been calculated for us. And that we need to, as best we can, seize opportunities as they come along to do this. The consequence of not doing so is potentially a court mandated remedy that nobody would like.
how can they can force you to build,
Well, and I'm not going into all the details, there's something.
but they can't force you to build 130 units.
No, but there's what's known as a builder's remedy lawsuit, and
Okay.
all the details of it, but essentially what it means is it was a mechanism that was established in connection with the Mount Laurel decision. That was designed to prevent people from practicing exclusionary housing, right? The idea was, if, let's say you were a municipality, you said, all we want is 3-acre properties with, you know, because we don't want a lot of kids coming into the school system, and so we're gonna zone affordable housing
can't do
out,
that.
right? This is putting it in very basic terms. So the notion was, if you have an approved compliant affordable housing plan, it insulates you from that. Right now, we don't have that because we're in the midst of figuring out what our obligation is. But if you don't have one, and a developer comes in, they say, I want to build X number of units on this property, and the borough says, or the town, the municipality says, no, they can go to a judge and petition that judge and say, well, we want to create X number of inclusionary units for affordable housing, but this town is preventing us from doing so. And the judge can potentially, as I understand it, again, geologist, not lawyer, take over the responsibility of the planning board and impose a solution on the municipality. And it's something
But
that
they couldn't make us accept 130 buildings.
I.
We don't know, you're not a
They
lawyer,
make you
and I'm
accept-
not even a
They
geologist,
can
so I
make you
can't answer that.
accept more. They
Um,
can make,
okay,
the judge can make you
but
accept
you-
whatever the
but-
judge says you can accept. So.
You understand what
the reason
I'm
I'm saying this, I know, I understand exactly what you're saying, and by the way, I'm not trying to create a doomsday scenario that says, oh my gosh, if we don't do this, that will happen. However, there is a finite risk out there. And it's something that we've always been conscious of. It used to be only in greenfields. It used to be like big housing developments, you know, they come along, they're gonna build 2,000 houses and it. But now apparently it's changed and they're looking more at infill in developed areas like ours. So we don't live under constant fear of it, but we have to be conscious of it and
Right.
factored into looking forward because, and I'll put it to you this way, the way we thought of this as a borough is if we ever come under that magnifying glass, we should show a history of responsibly embracing, you know, reasonable opportunities to create affordable housing whenever they came in. In other words, nobody can say Hopewell Borough has been practicing exclusionary housing. I don't know if that.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure there's
No,
a good case to say,
I know.
we didn't build it because they wanted 130 and we need, and set, if they're gonna do that, then why don't we make them do all the affordable housing we need?
But the whole thing is, we're only putting 26 units in there of affordable housing.
So, I just,
I understand what you're saying.
We don't need reassurance. We need the facts, we need I mean, this is when transparency, I think, is so important. Because the impression I got from what I said earlier is that you guys are all for it. The money would come in, the pilot money will come in, and maybe we'll give it to the schools. I mean, look what's going on in the township. So it's just so monumentally huge and impactful on this town. And I do hope what I suggested before, which is that everybody go over to Princeton McCaffrey's and see if that's how you wanna live. Because it's a nightmare. And so I just think I recognize the site plan, it will have all that information, but I think the public wants more before that. I don't think they'll look at the pictures and if they've seen them already, I mean, it's gonna be a repeat, so. But I will come and I will have an open mind, Chris.
Thank you.
And just on the DEP part, because I said, you know, those are two separate things. I mean, we can think about what's a good time to, and I have to look around a bit and find out who, because there are people at DEP that do public outreach and communication on brownfields redevelopment. And, you know, mostly they show up when you're, you know, when you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But no, I'm saying, I mean, I've got all insights where, you know, but there are people that do that. And because they know that, I mean, this is, because there's brownfield redevelopment going on all over the state of New Jersey, and it's a good thing because, you know.
Yeah, you need.
But they know how to handle these things, and I think and there are people that are much better at explaining these things than I am, who are also just, you know, independent parties with the state
Right.
that I think can help you to give you a sense of ease about that. Because, I mean, from my own experience, I know that all those risks are things that are controlled.
Would you be happy living right there while they were doing it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but that's because I've managed projects like this for 30 years.
Okay, so do you wanna take over Twine?
No, you know, the person who's the LSRP is a PhD.
What's
highly
LSRP,
qualified.
I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Eh,
Oh, licensed site mediation professional.
Okay.
So that's the person, and just so you understand, so that, I'm gonna go into too much detail, but it used to be in the olden days, like until about 10 or 12 years ago, every remedial project was overseen by a case manager from the NJDEP. And the problem was, there were so many cases, and there were only like 100 case managers, and nothing was getting done because they were so. So the LSRP program is where you're licensed by the NJDEP, so that
Okay.
person is required by.
Melissa, I don't know if you were at the meeting when this was discussed previously.
I
Were you
talked
at that
about it a
meeting
little
or-
bit.
The only one I missed was August.
Okay.
So, and really quickly, so the person, they're answerable to the DEP, they're audited by the DEP,
Okay.
they submit everything to DEP.
You're like a
There's a
PA.
paragraph this long that you certify. I always used to joke, I should have a fountain pen, I can sign in my own blood, because it tells you, you know, you're basically
Yeah, right.
going to prison if you lie. And everything gets submitted to the department, but the idea is the LSRP runs it from day to day and acts almost as their own case manager, so these things can move forward. So I was one of those, and I surrendered my license when I retired. And my blood pressure went down by 10 points. But but it's actually a really good
Okay.
process.
I will have to
And,
trust
and,
you.
and so very often the LSRP also becomes the point of contact for the responsible party doing the work to communicate with the public and answer questions. But that doesn't mean that the DEP can come in at the right moment and provide people with some reassurance. So,
Well, okay, Ryan, you can come back.
Can I just add something? It seems to me that if
You
they're
have
just-
Gloria Anton, it seems that they're only gonna put 26 units of affordable housing in the 130 apartments across the street from my home. What is the amount of, what I say I'm ignorant to this, what is like the amount of affordable housing does our town, are we obligated to? And if we're only gonna put 26 across the street, I know the reason why, because we're gonna get the pilot program and the builder's gonna make lots of money, and we're gonna get our taxes raised, and everybody's ha hooray, and it's over and done, easy peasy, like I said before, but you know, you can, do you need 50 more affordable housing? Do you need 100 in the town? We could spread them out amongst the other properties we have available.
I think the problem, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, that's okay.
the problem with it is that the developer does need to make some money. No one's gonna come in and do a charity case to say, oh, well, you need affordable housing, how about I just build whatever it is that you need for you? So it comes at a cost. And in order to get the affordable housing that we need, it needs to be more units than just the affordable housing units, so that the developer can
Right,
actually make a profit.
Why can't we put the affordable housing in other properties that we have around the town? And we're stuck with that property is a nightmare. It should personally be torn down and made into a retention basin and left alone, because I know the town wants the money. But it's
It's not
ridiculous.
about the town getting money.
It's ridiculous. I mean,
We
this
don't-
is
we-
the whole problem. The damn stinking piece of crap property should have been ripped down years ago. And we're living with the contaminated ground. I have polymyalgia from digging in my garden for the last 18 years, probably from that crap that came from across the street. My husband had his kidney removed 2 years ago from making coffee out of our stinking water. So you know what? I'm fed up. But that's why we're doing it, because easy peasy, take the pilot money, put the 26 units in there, we're all done. And it's all on us taxpayers and people living on Lafayette and Hamilton and Somerset. And none of you would like it in your yard, and you're across the street, none of you.
Can I just add one thing before Brian comes back? It's Rosemary Williams again. The new law does have a dispute resolution program, and we can appeal the numbers that we ultimately get based on lack of developable properties. And if we need to appeal that, I'll volunteer. I'm a pretty good legal writer. I will volunteer my services so we don't have to pay a lawyer. Not that I don't like lawyers to get paid, but I will help to write the appeal based on lack of property that can be developed if the numbers are too high. So that's all I wanted to say. And they are appointing retired judges to have a dispute resolution process, so it doesn't have to go to Superior Court. That's what the new law says. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rosemary. Thank you
Rosemary.
for volunteering. That's very kind of you. Anyone else on redevelopment 57 before we invite the mayor back in? Okay, Mr. Mayor, please.
and can you?
All right, I'll take a motion to close the first public session tonight.
On the,
Yes.
Favor? Thank you. Next, item 9 on our agenda, minutes from the August 1 regular meeting of council. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll second.
First and second, any discussion here or changes? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Next, item 10, these are our consent resolutions. A few of them perhaps require a bit of explanation, many of which we've discussed before, but a few highlights before I ask for a motion to either pull things out or to set them all together by consent. We've talked about, and if those of you are following our master plan reexamination process, a study our planner is working on for our downtown area as an area needs rehabilitation, which would possibly have some additional economic development incentive programs and tools that we could possibly in the future use. I'll note resolution 94 will allow our administrator to continue to pursue some possible grants or loans from the USDA as part of the work we're doing towards making sure we're turning over every stone of funding for our water system. And along those lines as well, 98, a few months ago, we initiated involvement in a class action lawsuit involving the PFAS contaminants, where we're hoping to get some of our costs back essentially from a fund that's been put together. This is another one of those lawsuits that we are inserting ourselves in and hopefully collecting some funds from. With that, was there any questions, or if anyone would like to move to pull a particular resolution out for further discussion? I'd love to entertain a motion.
I have one quick question about 95 that I should have asked before, but it's very minor. It specifies that BCC members have to live in the borough. So if someone moves out mid-appointment, can we have like a special exception, or what happens in that?
One, I thought that we had revised that slightly because some of our BCCs actually do specifically allow some members, some class members to our house. Yeah.
It could be the shade tree ordinance that honestly I haven't read, so if that is allowed for in there, then it doesn't matter.
Now, I'll also say, I think that this guidance document does not supersede the ultimate rules about appointments or residency and is meant to just describe them. So I think if that is something worth thinking about, I think it probably is. I don't know that this document could actually change if someone was on the, planning board and moved out of town. I don't think this would change that. What would happen in that situation, which I don't know exactly what would happen at the moment, but I think that since we're doing this by resolution and this does not alter the underlying ordinance that create these committees, that resulting here is actually fix the problem if there is one.
Yep, that helps. Okay, thank you.
That's correct. If the shade tree.
I just have to read it.
Is there, it'll take me a second, but it may say that they have to be residents.
It's on page 15.
Oh, no, we're talking about the ordinance. We're talking about the ordinance that creates the shade tree. But that's correct, that this doesn't change anything.
It's a different topic.
I'll do a motion to move.
Well, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
So still on this, so I think that's satisfies you.
Yes.
And then also just hope or imply that, and one, these are living documents that can be altered by the council, and I think will be revisited regularly, and that I would imagine that the motion here also would encompass the typographical errors or fixes that might have come up that can be done. And we don't need to revisit that later, that we can, so that'll be baked into any motion. I would love to entertain that.
Okay,
Jen, do we have a second?
93 through 98. Second.
Heidi, second. This will do by roll call, is that right, Reggie?
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Ms. McCullough.
Yeah.
Ms. Sealer,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Blandis.
Yes.
Next, love to entertain a motion for claims payment, item 11. Kristen and Sherry,
Ms. Blandis,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Sealer,
Yes.
Ms. McCullough. Yes. Mr. Mackey,
yes.
Ms. Hook.
Yes.
I know.
She's just.
You never know where it's gonna land.
All right, next on our mayor and council liaison reports, feel like every month I'm like randomly darting around, and I apologize, we have like a system for this. Samara, would you be okay to go first?
Sure, yeah.
Everyone,
Open Space Advisory met,
much of the meeting was in closed session. Outside of that was administrative, setting the next meeting will be the first in-person meeting since COVID, I think. So it'll be October 15th at the municipal courtroom at the township. In open session, they did talk about the status of Green Acres funding, which is in good condition. It is likely that about 800,000 of the current funding may be returned to Green Acres, unless there is an extra before the end of the year, which is probably very likely. Board of Health vote and vax is happening at Borough Hall here on November 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. There'll be a rabies clinic at the train station November 16th from 9 a.m. to noon, and then upcoming flu clinics outside of the vote and vax. September 6th, 10 to 2 at Hopewell Township Municipal Building. September 13th, 2 to 5 at the Hopewell Valley Senior Center. October 1st, 3 to 7 at the Hopewell Township Municipal Building. October 15th, 3 to 7. The Pennington Municipal Building, and those dates are all on the Board of Health website for the township as well. And just an update that the joint annual meeting of Pennington Borough, Hopewell Township, and Hopewell Borough's Board of Health is finalized for September 17th at 6 p.m. at Pennington Borough Hall. That's all I have. Samara, is it just flu vaccine or is it COVID as well?
Just
Thank you, sir. You want to, maybe we'll do outside in. How do you want to go next?
Sure, I'll be really quick because, so the green team, the Hopewell Valley Green Team did not meet last month and they're actually meeting tonight, so I'm not there. And I already spoke about, we will be at the, farmer's market. EDC, I was not able to attend any meeting last month. I did review the minutes though, and they're basically working on one of the things that's in the document. They're working on our plan for next year, so, nothing new there.
Thanks. Deb, go ahead.
Okay, Recreation Committee, hasn't met lately, but we did want to, remind everybody that the annual Hope Harvest Fair takes place on September 21st, because it's on a flyer. And apparently council's gonna be taking part in a new capacity this year as far as what we're helping to serve, so we'll have more to come on that. The Tour de Arts is gonna be held on September 28th and 29th at Highland Bazaar and Studio, as well as various locations here in the borough. Hopewell Porch Fest has been moved to October 13th. And there are dual Halloween celebrations coming up on Sunday, October 27th, the Firehouse Halloween Parade and the Library Extravaganza. The Building Committee is gonna be meeting on September 17th at 5 p.m. Doug will probably have more details in his report, but construction is going well at the train station. Planning and design details are being worked on for the Public Works Building, and we'll have to report that obviously work has started in earnest at the Hopewell Inn. Library Board is not meeting this month. They don't have any specific announcements other than, having a great continuing array of events for all ages held by the library. And be sure to sign up for their emails, follow them on social media, and they will be having a bake sale in October, which is one of the biggest fundraisers for our local library. So please plan to stop by and pick up a treat while you're walking around town. And that's it.
Thank you. So I wanted to see, I'm trying to remember, my kids are learning math and I'm trying to remember how math goes, but the order of operations maybe is what I'm looking for here. Jerry, you want to go next?
I also have a short report because senior advisory did not meet over the summer. Fire department had a working meeting where they were able to rework their budget, so they didn't have to ask for more money, which is always good. And shade tree fall planting continues, and Melissa, here's specifically for you, so put these on your radar. The next meeting is October 3rd here at 8 a.m. But there's a special working meeting of a smaller group because I don't know if everyone remembers our celebration tree program, which the name keeps changing, so we don't know where we're landing, but anyone is interested in joining that, that will be September 26th at Chubby's, so I'll probably see you there anyways. And just coming up with the name and that's to remind you the program we want to start where people can donate a tree for, in memory of someone or in celebration of someone. So, and work continues.
Thank you. Dave, go next.
Yeah, so, what's my plan committee? So on August 2nd, we received notification from the DEP that our $2.34 million grant application for water treatment systems has been accepted by the US EPA. And they authorized the DEP to move forward with funding the project. So the money is administered on the state level, but it's federal funding. So that was good news. Let's see, you've already talked about the petition and WIPA, right? So I'm not gonna go with that. Water supply planning committee, we met online with the NJDEP on August 12th to discuss next steps under the grant process. And so briefly, the project is essentially divided into two phases. The first is the planning and design phase, and the second is the construction phase. And they would be funded under two separate grant agreements. The department issues a grant agreement, is basically a contract with the borough. So the first step would be for them to issue a grant agreement for the planning and design work. As you may recall, when we were discussing this before, there is a federal requirement that if you use federal funds to build a physical asset and then you sell, it's just for a public utility, if you sell that to a private utility, you basically have to return to the federal government the value of the asset at the time of sale. So that has implications should we build these treatment systems and then sell, if we decide to sell the water utility down the road, it's fine as long as you recover the full amount of that in the sale, but if you don't, that could be an issue. So something that we're mindful of. But the planning and design phase of the project, which is planning and design and actually getting the permits, it doesn't have that clawback provision. So the DEP assured us, he said, feel free to move forward with the planning and design phase while you're figuring out what you're going to do with the possible sale of the water utility. So the next step is that the DEP will send us a grant agreement, and we'll review that, obviously, and make any comments and sign it, and then put out a request for proposal to engineering firms to do the planning and design work. And just in terms of how that relates to our time frame potentially for exploring the possible sale of the water utility, I kind of mapped out all the different elements of this that I can predict, and the permitting. There's a lot of environmental permitting involved because we would be putting a water treatment building in Hopewell Borough Park next to the well, and because of where it's located, there are a lot of fairly onerous permitting requirements. So we would actually expect that between the planning, design, siting, and getting all the necessary permits could take 8 to 10 months. Which would put us, well into 2025. It could be faster than that, but just based on experience with other projects and looking at all the different milestones. So we'll see how it goes. And we'll be tracking that and reporting as we go forward on our progress. And let's see. We assisted Doug and Reggie with identifying records of other expenditures related to that PFAS class action lawsuit, because we're just trying to recover all of our expenses going back to January 2019 on laboratory analyses and consulting costs, legal, and so on and so forth. We put out our next PFAS public notice, which I'm sure you all got in the mail. We submitted that to DEP review on the 26th, and the team got it out on the 29th. Thank you, Reggie and everyone. As required, and this is the 9th consecutive quarterly monitoring period where we have complied with the drinking water standards. So that's good news. And finally, water usage tracking and costs. So typically what I do, rather than just going month to month, is look at how much water we're using, but also how much water we're purchasing through Jersey American for the same period last year, just to see how things have changed, because if you recall, last year we had a big leak. And so for the period from mid-May to mid-August, the actual quantity of water that we purchased dropped by 54% since the same period last year. And the actual charges were 49% less. The difference between the two is because the rates have gone up, but at any rate, so those are a result of our success in identifying and repairing hidden leaks, also boosting production from well number 4. So that's good news. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Crystal?
All I have is that we're having the acknowledgement of the low speed limit and the Safe Routes to School grant award tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in front of Borough Hall. You guys can join us, that'd be great, especially Friedman, since you were part of this as well. And just mostly saying thank you to all the people that helped make this possible, some of whom were very helpful in pulling you back from the brink of insanity during the grant application process. You're one of them, Reggie.
Yeah.
So hope to see you all tomorrow morning. That's all.
Thank you. A couple things from me. Doug, our administrator, and I met with a representative from the state economic development staff for an introduction that I got from meeting with the new Mercer County Planning Director. A great meeting, and the idea is that at some point soon to be able to hand off some resources to EDC and create a kind of handoff of what might be available resources wise for the town, for our businesses. Now that we know who this person is, so I'm excited about that. He had a few initial ideas, and the rub with grants and programs is that everything sounds great. You get to the details, and it turns out, well, that one doesn't apply, this one's apply, but you keep looking. So the first couple ones didn't necessarily weren't home runs, but there's a lot of programs, and excited to get them in front of our businesses. I mentioned before, Maria Conley, the new county planning director, spent some time with us and maybe here tomorrow as well as part of our thank you event, but looking forward to how the county can help us with what we're doing from a planning perspective. I want to thank everyone for the patience with the Broad Street paving program, and I want to particularly thank Doug, our administrator, for all the work he did to make it as smooth as possible, and things like that. When other agencies are doing work in your town, it's never perfect. And there were a couple of bumps in the road that are now all smooth with pavement. But no pun intended, yes. But in all seriousness, really appreciate our counterparts in the county for working with us, and our administrator for making sure that when things didn't seem to be right, we figured out a way to make them a little bit better. So much appreciated there. As David said, many water meetings and about possible funding sources, meeting with other towns about their experiences. We'll continue to leave no stone unturned there about what our options are. I'm noting that our planning board and borough council, this is on the website, but have special unusual dates for October meetings, rather than the first Wednesday and first Thursday. So please keep an eye on that. There's some holidays coming up at the beginning of the month, so our dates are a little different. As Deb said, great progress with the funding, with the construction of the railroad station, and looking forward to the next steps with some additional help with the funding kind of backfilling. And again, thank our administrator for keeping up on those so that we can get a little bit more paid for by the trust. Also, would like to do kind of a unveiling event when it's done, kind of for the community and council. Thank those who are involved with that, and welcome back the community to the space. So as we get closer to date, maybe some news hopefully on something like that. There will be it's not a new business, but a relocated business moving to a new space on Broad Street on Saturday. So I'm excited to use the giant novelty scissors for ribbon cutting for Woolen Oaks new space this weekend. Congratulations to them on their new space and being a little bit more visible on our Broad Street. Also on Saturday, Woolsey Park at 11 o'clock is the 9/11 memorial service for Hopewell Valley. I want to congratulate all our families and students thus far on getting back to school and a successful first week. And our principal here, we were working with him to make sure we could help with any snafus with the traffic and paving. Things took a little longer than we thought, but we were working with them to make sure that everyone knew where to go and how to not block school buses. Again, bridge construction information on our website about things like this. If you go to our website /roads or under resources for roads and detours, it has information about all of our projects, including Carter Road. We'll continue to work with the county on that one, of course, but we were able to avoid a full closure. Original plan for that was to have 3 full days of the road entirely being closed. We're really appreciative that they could figure out a way to do it so it was never fully closed. We mentioned earlier, I guess in response to a question about meetings with a health officer and other enforcement teams about maybe what some people will refer to as being some of these problem properties or sources of complaints. And without being specific, I'll just say that our team from administrator down is working with all of our professionals, legal, health department, to figure out what we can do for some of these things. And while I can't have any specific answers on any of them, a lot of time has been spent in the last couple of months on working on those. Office hours for me next Wednesday and Saturday, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, Saturday at 9. I'll be here to talk to residents about anything you'd like that I can talk about. I'm not gonna say much about our pilot litigation, but arguments are coming up on the 1st of October in our appeal. As Deb said, we'll see everyone at the Harvest Fair. I don't know actually if we'll be that innovative this year, but we'll have some treats available and an opportunity to talk to everyone. Very excited for that event coming up.
Should do a dunk tank.
That would
No.
make a.
Purpose your bets here, you don't wanna do that.
Well, I would be happy.
When George Patrick was there.
We did have one in, just trust me, I won't.
I think it was 692, we had one for cruise night. I think at
Oh, that was
one
before
point
my
we
time,
did.
but-
In any event, if with the right donation, I'm happy to be dunked anywhere, whatever people want. Also, wanna thank again our administration and staff publicly for on behalf of the Stony Brook Regional Sewer Authority. Our team has been helping them while their space has been renovated and using some conference space here in our meeting room, and they're very appreciative. And I want to make sure that credit goes where it is due, not me, but to our administrator and clerk and our team here for the borough. That is all I've got. Doug, if anything from your report you'd like to add?
Yeah, just a few things. We continue to invest in our water system for improvements, and we're doing a really good job with the leaks. As David had mentioned, we found another leak under East Broad. Luckily, we found it before the paving, so that we took care of all 5. That one popped up at the last minute. We started our budget process already for 2025, and we're starting with the utilities. So we're gonna we've already started that conversation. And we also, I'm working with Joanna, we're putting together, and Dave, we're putting together a projection for our future sanitary sewer requirements. So we're working on that. Obviously, we'll be sharing that with with Stony Brook. We're meeting, we're still moving forward with the project for the Public Works building, which is sorely needed. The building team is meeting again on the 18th, I believe it is, to finalize plans, and then we can start getting that. Look to bid, get that bid out the door. Hart Avenue, everything is down with the DOT for their final review. We're just waiting comments. So our schedule is, we're looking to release the bid on the 23rd of September. We'll receive bids on October 29th and award a contract at our November 7th council meeting. So that was one of our goals, was to try to get that in this year before we potentially lost one of the grants for that work. So that was great. And there was something else I wanted to touch on. Oh, the train station. We lost a lot of time because of the weather, the humidity, the certain finishes they use and everything, they couldn't be applied. When humidity is above 90% or what have you. So if you went by, you may see days when it looked like a nice day, but no one was working. So that was part of the issue. And then also, the New Jersey Historic Trust has been great. They come to we meet bi-weekly, they come out, they approve everything we're doing. The repointing of the brick, and we get their buy-in on everything. So they've been fantastic. So right now we're looking at October 25 to be the completion date, and then we'll go from there. So.
Doug, thank you, and Lisa and Reggie and the rest of your team, again, as always, for all the players that's made. We're all much appreciated. Next, I will open the meeting again to members of the public first in person. If you'd like to come up and make a comment, please do so. Not seeing anyone in person. And I don't see any hands online either, though we do have some folks online. Having said that, not seeing anyone, I would take a motion to close the meeting to the public.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And okay.
And second, all those in favor? All right, thanks, everyone. Good night.